Johnstone Burgh boss Jamie McKim is on the show. Well, first of all, I think this is the first down the divisions on the road. Jamie, can you tell us where you are just now?
Les Mahego, Tesco. Travelling back from Birmingham with work. So, it's interesting.
That's the first for us, but no, thanks for being on the show. You've got no game this Saturday, I don't think, but it sounded like a proper Renfrewshire derby last weekend against Arthurlie.
It was. To be fair, I'm probably really happy we've not got a game this week because the injuries are mounting up on us. So we had the night off training last night after Saturday, and tomorrow night we'll be in, but it's not looking great in terms of numbers. But Saturday was a really competitive game. Obviously, Arthurlie have went unbeaten this year, and we, to be fair, on Saturday I think we were very good, and unfortunate not to see the game out and get the 3 points.
Yeah, the game finished 1 each, but it sounded like there was plenty happening. Just tell us a bit more about the game. I mean, you took a second half lead, and then I think it was one of your boys on the end of it, Brian Connor, took a dull one, did he? And then they levelled with 4 minutes left.
Yeah, I think in the first half we created plenty of quality opportunities. Unfortunately, didn't take them. In the second half, we scored for a set piece. I think it was about maybe 70 odd minutes, and then as you said, Brian took a sore one round about just before 80-minute mark. For me, I don't want to get too far. I hate speaking about the referee's side of it, but we've had a few harsh decisions on us recently, and for me it was a red card challenging Brian. We had used all 3 substitutes and we effectively went down to 10 men because the limit in his movement, he couldn't move. He was basically standing up front to try and occupy one of their defenders, but effectively we went down to 10 men at that point, and that swung the game for me in the last 10 minutes. So very, very frustrating.
As far as, I mean, obviously you wanted to win, but as you say, like Arthurlie, I think that's them broken the club record for the most games in a row without defeat. They made it now 24 games, I think. With the season they've had and the fact that you pushed them all away, I know you didn't get the result for whatever reason that you were looking for, the win, but how good can that performance be for you, and how far does it reflect on how much progress you've made this season?
I think from the outside it probably does reflect well, and people also, and I know as you said we pushed them all the way, but for me we dominated the game for large parts on Saturday. So for me, the real frustration is if we'd come away and we had won 2-0 or whatever, people wouldn't be saying it's a harsh scoreline or whatever. I thought we were well worthy of one, but I think it's just a reflection of how our seasons went recently in the last 4 to 6 weeks. We've had a hard time with it, but I'm pleased with the performance. There's no doubt about that. If we can carry that into the last 2 games, we'll give ourselves a good chance of progressing further.
In terms of going into this conference, Jamie, obviously I've come up against you a few times. You've always had good teams and well organised teams, fit teams as well. Are you surprised that Johnstone Burgh are where they are in the league, especially yourselves and Craig Mark Burton's?
I think at the start of the season, I would say we thought we would be up challenging kind of top half. We had a really, really poor start. I think quite a number, without speaking out of turn, a number of players let us down at the start of the season, and our squad's changed dramatically around about the halfway point. I think a mixture of different things. See, coming back from the COVID scenario, life's obviously changed for a lot of people. So in terms of our squad, we were set up to be successful in this division. But kind of halfway through, we've maybe had a turnover, we've maybe brought in 6 new players, and we've maybe lost between 6 and 10. But for me, I think the last 6 games or whatever you would say, we've not been beaten in 12. I think we've won 9 out of our last 12 and drawn 3. And for me, that's shown where we could and should be if we had done that earlier in the season. If we had that earlier season form, we could be higher, in my opinion, and we should have already secured a minimum of League One or Championship, whatever you call it, football for next season. But that's not taken away from the quality of the other teams.
You must be pleased with that then, Jamie, because obviously to bring in 6 players, for me that's a lot, and then you're integrating these guys into a changing room as well. It's obviously to get to change the mentality, to bring different characters and personality in. How did you go about doing that?
I think we probably, just before we hit the halfway point of the season, we knew we had to get more bodies in. We were struggling to score goals. We've actually got a very good defensive record, but we were really struggling to score goals, and we managed to get Brian Connor in for Irvine Meadow, who made a big difference going forward. We managed to get Rory Clark in, centre midfielder for Ardrossan, helped us kind of steady the ship in the middle, and we got Ryan Wallace in as well, who came in at left back. He was at Maryhill earlier in the season, and that three supplemented us really well. So it made us look a bit stronger in games and helped us. And towards the second half of the season, I think we've had that time to gel as a team, and you can see with the performances we're getting stronger week on week. But it was tough. See, halfway through a season when you know you need more, I think obviously Paul, for being in it yourself, it's really, really tough to go and recruit mid-season. Really tough. But we were very fortunate to get the boys in.
And that's a credit to you, because I was thinking that when you said that, it's always difficult to actually go to, and maybe hoping to pick up boys is maybe not getting a game at a bigger club. How did you go about that? Did you have to go and buy these players, or were they just guys that become available on the transfer list?
Well, I think for the cases of Ryan Wallace left Maryhill and we managed to pick him up free, the same way Rory, we managed to get Thomas Cruden in from the amateurs. The one time the one time we've ever paid a fee for a player was Brian Connor for Irvine Meadow, and I think that was out of the club knowing the guys at the committee. To be fair, they were at the games every week. They could see what we needed, and we really needed a striker at that point. Needed somebody to put the ball in the net, and that's what Brian's came in and done. So it was really helpful for the club, obviously supporting us at that point. But that's something that since I've been there, we've never really been able to do. And it was brilliant for me just to get the backing for that, and obviously it's helped us massively.
And one thing you have over the years been very good at, you have took guys from amateur football, 21s football and stuff like that. Is that a market that you still actively shop in?
Yep, 100%. We see, to be honest, I think you need to look at every level to get what you know yourself. There's guys playing at different levels of the game that could do a job for you. So I've got to say, my coaching team do quite a bit of the work as well. They are out looking at different games all the time. We're watching different 20s games, 21s, amateurs, different games at our level. Really, you're shopping to try and find as many gems as you can, So we're used to it because as a club, there's never really been any resource there to go and buy anybody or pay anybody. But as I said, I think with this season, with what was at stake, I think with this season was provide a real opportunity for all the clubs, because obviously, dependent on where you finish in the league, depends where you play next year. So I think that was kind of more behind the club maybe putting a hand in the pocket and helping us out this year to do a bit better than where we were. So
just to put things into context, I mean, you've got 2 games left. I think you're I suppose ultimately trying to keep your fourth spot in Conference A, and that'll seal you the promotion to the second tier for next season. Is it Shotts and Muirkirk both at home you've got to finish the season off? And how do you see those 2 games to finish things off, and how much does finishing 4th and getting that promotion mean to you and the club right now?
It would be huge for the club, absolutely huge. Obviously when we came in, I think it's just over 4 years ago now, we were in the bottom tier. If we managed to finish 4th, it would kind of symbolise back-to-back promotions in terms of a double jump, essentially. So it would be huge. The 2 games we have remaining are very, very tough. We went to Shotts earlier in the year and we were up 2-0 after maybe 35 minutes, and we lost the game 3-2. A very experienced team, very good side. It'll be a very, very tough one. And Muirkirk, I think a lot of people wrote Muirkirk off at the start of the season, which I don't understand, because they've got a lot of good players and they all work very, very hard. We were there the first day of the season, we drew 0-0 with them. So I think the 2 of them are very, very tough tests. But with the team we've got in the squad, I'm confident getting into every game. I mean that I believe in my players. I think they all work hard for each other and they're a talented group. So I think it showed on Saturday. But the position we're in, I think, could be a lot better with the last few games. I think our last 4, we've played Whitlets, Atherley, and Craig Mark, and from winning positions end up drawing the game, ending all of them with 10 men, to be fair.
Well, just imagine what you could do when you've got 11 on the park.
Well, to be fair, Saturday there was the first one that was out with our control. The other ones are red cards, and I think we appealed one of them because I thought that was unjust, and we take good advice on them. But Saturday there, gone down 10 men due to injury, and the red card not being shown is incredibly frustrating.
Take us inside the dressing room at Keene Park. Then you've mentioned some of the boys you've signed, but tell us some of the characters in the dressing room, some of the boys and the guys who are maybe the bigger characters in there.
We've got a real mix, to be honest. A lot of, I think, as I said to you off air, that we signed 5 guys for Alba Thistle a couple of years ago, 5 from Renfrew under 21s, and kind of merged that together, and that made the basis of our squad. Now we've still got from that. We've still got Stuart Fife, our captain, centre half. Sam Esplin's been with us for a while. He's a vice captain. Winger. These boys have been with me for 4 years now. That I knew from the Paisley and District Youth Leagues. That was where we initially got to know them. We've recently signed Jordan Much, who was in at Peters Hill previously. As a friend of mine, so I've known him for a while. He's come in for the last 5 games. We have you to see how he does. So it's a unique group, I would say. Very, very different personalities within it. And obviously with Rory coming in from our dross and Rory Clark, he's been very, very good from our dressing room as well. I think over the years we've probably been a very, very young side in terms of what we come up against, and that's where probably this season it's maybe hurt us a few times. But it's a great dressing room to be a part of. It's a great squad I've got. I think we've got some really, as I said, Brian Connor as well coming from Irvine Meadow. With him and Jojo Gillespie, we've got two of the best young talents at the level who I think will go far in the game. So as I said, it's different dynamics and different strengths in different areas of the squad.
Who's the loudest in there?
The loudest? I would hate to say one because I tend to try and stay out of there because I think there's 5 or 6. I would say, without being too light, 5 or 6 maniacs, I would say. So
is it a dressing room though that you can do that with and feel fairly comfortable then that you can let the dressing room manage yourself a little bit?
Aye, definitely. My dressing room does manage itself. There is big characters in there. I mean, we've got out with the boys I've mentioned. There's a couple of Pollock boys that are there. Danny Macbeth, our centre half. Malky McDonald, centre midfielder. Big personalities in the dressing room as well. So there's leaders in there. And although it's a very, very young squad, there are a few kind of more, as I said, with Jordan coming in, he was very experienced, with Jordan Much, with Jason Hardy and Ricky MacArthur as well previously. Ricky's still here, but Jason's moved on. The two of them were leaders within the dressing room as well. So it's a real mix, but I've not had many major issues, to be honest. It's a real good group.
Johnstone Burgh is a ground I love going to. Again, we spoke off air, good changing facilities, proper old-fashioned ground. You must be at an advantage where you are there as well in terms of attraction. So you've got Paisley, Glasgow, but you also kind of border that kind of Ayrshire as well. So you must, I know there's a lot of clubs in that down in Ayrshire, but you must be quite happy where you're positioned there.
We are in a decent area, to be fair. As you said, the facilities are good. Inside the clubhouse, we've done a lot of work there, and we're trying to make it as attractive for players to come as we can. But although we're in a good position for players to come in terms of where we are, we're also surrounded with the likes of Neilston, Renfrew, Arthurlie, different people who I think over the years I would say have probably taken Johnstone Burgh's best players, if we're being honest. I think now we're getting to a stage where that maybe doesn't happen as often as you would think. But for me, the club's definitely in a good place at the moment, and it's just about trying to progress that in the next coming years.
And in terms of talking to boys for the next season, have you re-signed many? A lot of them happy to stay at the club?
Aye, I think we've re-signed 6 at the moment. I think the first thing we done was went after the club captain and vice captain. I think that's the right thing to do. And both of them signed straight away, basically. So Stuart Fife and Sam Esplin were the first 2, and then with Brian Connor and Joe Gillespie being the 2 youngest kind of for me, the youngest prospects in the squad was the first two we went to after that. And we've built upon that, and it's now work in progress. That was only kind of the last fortnight the boys have signed, and it's now you're trying to maybe pin 2 down or 3 down at every training session to have the chats. You know yourself, it's almost a full-time job with the top of your training. You need to do this, and you need to respect some of the other boys' works and not get in the way too much. But I'm really happy with where we are as a squad at the moment, and I want to tie down the majority, I would say, alongside, obviously, we've got targets for next year. So we're trying to go the right way about it and approach different clubs to speak to the individuals we're interested in to take us to the next level. See, to be honest, I think it's tough every year. The first couple of years we had a major rebuild, and now we're only looking to kind of maybe change a couple of different positions and not as many numbers. I like to go on holiday the first 2 weeks in June and be able to do nothing, but that's never ever happened. That's the frustration. I think everybody gets their time off in the summer, and man, I've got to admit, I've got a brilliant team. My assistant manager does a lot of work. Davey's on 24/7. To be honest,
who's that? Tell us a bit more, Davey.
Davey Hill. He puts in as much, if not more, than myself. So I've got to admit I'm fortunate with that. But you do not get any time off, I don't think, in comparison to what the players do anyway.
No, it's a tough period. It's a real tough period. And I've had in the past where you think, do you know what? We're sorted. We're going into pre-season. Had really good pre-seasons, and then somebody gets 2 players get a long-term injury. I've had it as well in the past where you're going into pre-season going, I still need another 3 or 4. All managers need another 3 or 4, don't they? But like you're still thinking, I really need 3 or 4, and then things come good for you. It's hard, but you just want to go into the first day of pre-season with a full squad, knowing business is done, and it makes life a hell of a lot easier.
Definitely, I've got to agree.
Where do you hope to take Johnstone Burgh? What's a realistic aim for Johnstone Burgh? I mean, in theory, you get the promotion to the second tier. Do you feel the club is set up? Obviously, your main responsibility are the players on the park and the team, but is the club set up and ready to go places, to deal with being in the second tier and to go further?
I would say at the moment there's been major progress made off the park. We're in the best position since I've arrived anyway. The committee is getting stronger. The finances are getting better off the pitch. So for me, I think realistically, if we manage to get into the second tier, which I'm hoping we do next season, I think the biggest thing, your target would be to be there again the following year, and then try and build on that and compete. I think you need to be realistic about it, and for where we are as a club and the budgets that are around about us, you don't want to be going and saying, you'd love to be in the Premier League within a year, because that is unrealistic, I think, in terms of who is going to be in League One or the Championship, whatever they want to call it, next year. There's going to be some big clubs in there and some real big hitters. So if we get in there, we would really need to be at it every week to make sure we compete. But for me, it would be a disappointment for me if we're not in that next season. That for me is really where we want to be. And let's be honest, you want to progress every year. You want to take the club as far as you can, and with the guys that are involved now, they're ambitious. They're trying to get more sponsors into the club. They've been successful with that. I think for the first time ever, we'll have a budget next year, which I've been looking through green eyes at everybody else with that in previous years. So it's positive times and exciting times. I think the Saturday the Arthurley game, we had a huge crowd, and that's just a sign of where it's going.
Sorry, Jamie, I was just going to come in there with that. Have you seen an increase in your crowds this year with the conferences?
Definitely. Especially our biggest crowd before Saturday, our biggest crowd was Irvine Vic's game at home 2 weeks previous, which surprised. It was just obviously a nice day, people getting out to support. But I think when you're starting to see the clubs who were previously Championship clubs, when you go to play against them, they get bigger crowds usually. And you know yourself, when your team's winning, especially in Johnstone, the local people come out and support a team that's winning. They want to come out and watch a good side. They're not going to waste their time if we're not at it.
How gutted were you for the news that your former captain Niall Heron made the announcement recently there that he's had to retire at the age of 22? He had the serious cruciate ligament injury I think it was at Cullow Rovers, wasn't it? And his 4 years at the club has come to an end.
Yep, it was devastating for him, to be honest, first and foremost, and then for us, obviously, to lose a club captain, and I know 22-year-old's very young for a club captain, but he's a Jamie, a boy, really, really top boy, good footballer, good boy, good person to have about the club. So at such a young age, I think it was very, very hard for him to take, and hard for us at the club as well, because we loved having him about, and we had him for a few years. So it's the thing for me, as much as we want to be of many good players at the club, the most important thing is we have good people there as well. And when Niall leaving, it's one less good person there, so it was hard for us to take. And I think he built a kind of good rapport at the club over the last couple of years. Been through a lot of his time at the club, so really, really disappointing.
It happened last season. How tough was it to watch you with him trying to make his way back and struggling and maybe like seeing that he was facing a losing battle?
It was tough. The day it happened, I actually wasn't there. I had COVID and watched the game and the live stream, but I didn't realise initially how serious it was. And I spoke to him that night, and then going forward, when we heard where it was going, and when he came back to try and train, he was training individually with our coach Ryan Muldoon, and said later in life, if he doesn't stop now, he's going to suffer then.
And it's been a difficult time, I guess, for the club, because you also lost the former committee man and lifelong Borough fan, Tam McGee. He passed away, didn't he, recently?
Very recently. I think it was January we lost Tam. Somebody I got to know quite well over the first couple of years at the club. Very, very nice guy. Followed us all over. Was at every home game, often in the bus to the away games. Just a very, very pleasant man. A long-term supporter of the club. I know he was always in the committee. He was in the committee in previous years, but it's obviously hard to take at that point. It was nice that his family were up at the Irvine Vicks game, because we were planning on the minute silence and doing a wee bit for his family earlier in the year. But obviously with the weather and the fantastic surface at Kenny Park was struggling a wee bit in January. So it was nice to have them up as well. But you're right, it's been a hard time at the club with that recently. Obviously, my coach Ryan Muldoon lost his father yesterday as well, and that's what I'm on my way back up the road to see him tonight as well. So it's really tough in terms of for different people at different times in at the club. So I think it's one of the good things here is we are a close-knit bunch and everybody sticks by each other.
I know, obviously, Ricky runs the club there. Is it Ricky Cantwell, isn't it?
Yeah.
And over the years, I've been in meetings and things like that, and Ricky, has always said it's a struggle. Have you managed to attract more committee men on to obviously get these improvements? And obviously, losing a committee man and a fan and things like that is difficult. But have you managed to replace anybody on the committee?
What we have done, we lost 2 or 3 last year. The committee wasn't going very well, kind of towards the end of the COVID period. When I say the end of the COVID period, when we were still shut down as such, and we were coming into playing the games in the COVID period where the grounds were closed to spectators and things. We managed to attract a couple of new guys in. I think it was a couple of years ago. There was a guy standing at the side taking pictures, Johnstone Burgh supporter. And we get talking to him, and eventually he came every week. He's now one of the committee members, Kenny McWilliam. He does the social media, does the pictures, but it was just a guy that was standing on the side supporting us and taking pictures with his camera. And I think that was just a case of, what are you up to? Can you help us? And from then, we've tied in with the community club as well, Johnstone Burgh Community Club. A guy, Scott Graham's taken over there, and although he's helping with the younger kids, starting to take to do with the seniors committee as well, and he's put a lot in as well. He's helping us out massively in terms of how active he is in the committee. And we also, when Colville Park folded a couple of years back, John Fallon joined, whose brother played for the club for Johnstone Burgh. He's joined the committee as well, and puts a lot of hard work in. So hard work's probably a good way to describe John, but he puts a lot in. You can't deny that.
And we've started asking every club manager every week now about the kit man. about we always like to find out about the kit man. Tell us a bit about your kit man, who the kit man is, how much work they put in, and it's a thankless task sometimes, isn't it?
Our kit man is the full-time volunteer at the club, I would say. He doesn't just do our stuff, he does the development stuff as well, the 20 stuff. He's incredible. Doesn't have the greatest health. That doesn't stop him ever. I think you would say he probably spends 3 to 4 days a week at the club in terms of actually in the clubhouse, and he's at every development game on a Friday night. He's at every the thing for me when he's at all our games, obviously, the thing I didn't realise until recently is I've been there for 4 years and he's never seen the first half of any of the home games because he's sitting at the gate taking the money.
All right.
So
What's his name, Jamie?
Brian Williams. To be fair, probably one of the biggest supports for me in terms of since I joined there, because at times I think the 2 years were kind of left alone at times in the first couple of years and trying to make decisions, trying to progress the club, and without his support it wouldn't have been, I'm not saying probably, it definitely wouldn't have been possible. So he's incredible for the club, and that's somebody we couldn't do without.
And every club up and down the country has these Brians. Do you know what I mean? It's frightening to see, really, when you think about it. Like, clubs are actually sometimes held together by one man, really, on times. You know, you're just saying there, he puts the kit out probably before he comes, jumps on a turnstile, and then, you know, is there after everybody's left putting the stuff in the washing machine. Superb.
I can say without doubt, if it wasn't for Brian and Ricky, the club wouldn't be alive. It'd be dead. The club would be dead. But what I would say is the likes of John coming in, Scott Graham coming in, and the work they're doing alongside, I've got to say my coaching team put in a power of work as well. That's progressing the club further. So the guys have kept it alive, but the new guys are trying to progress it and make it better.
You also mentioned the development team there. I think did you form that? I mean, I think from what I'd read and what I'd heard, it was you'd always hoped to get a development team in at the club, and the pandemic allowed you the time and the chance to kind of put that together. Yeah,
well, initially we put out an advert. The first thing we done was put an advert for a development team manager, because we kind of needed somebody to own it. And there was quite a lot of interest in it, to be honest. But one of the boys I'd worked with previously, Kyle Reid's the development team manager now. He phoned about having a chat possibly about coming in, and he was in at Glenvale at the time, taking, I think it was the 2014. And obviously I knew I'd worked with him previously, so I knew he was good. I knew I could trust him. And for me, that's kind of the basis of everything. First and foremost, as long as you can trust somebody, then there's the possibility of working with them. If you can't trust them, for me, at the point blank, there's no possibility of going any further. He's got a good backroom team with Ross Stewart, Michael Donnell, very, very top coaches. Worked in at St Mirren for a number of years and at Partick Thistle. And when they came in, it was a no-brainer for them to come in and work beside us. And before I came into Johnstone Burgh, I think me, Davey and Ryan that are in it now, we were in with the Glenvale 2002s with Barry McLaughlin. Very, very successful team that Barry had for years. Barry and Davey Boland had them, and we got to know a number of the boys just through that 6-7 month period that we were there, and that's basically formed the foundations of the development team at the 20s. We managed to get 8 of the boys from there, and on top of that we've added a number of the boys that played for Kyle, Ross and Michael at the 2004s, and then some of the kids for the Johnstone Burgh Community Club as well, amongst others. So I think we managed to get 2 in from Darvel 20s as well before the season went actually competitive and went live. So for me, the good thing for me is we already kind of knew everybody that was involved, so it worked really, really well. The challenge will be next season when these guys, the 2002 players, move on. We need to backfill that at 2005, where Kyle, Ross and Michael, their knowledge of the game and their player knowledge will then come in and be tested rather than what we knew previously.
And I guess is the hope then is that that'll create a pathway into the first team and allow you to have an extra pool of players to select from going forwards?
Definitely. I think we've used a lot of the development team players over the course of the season, and I think at the start of the season we signed 2 central defenders, 2 senior central defenders, and we were always looking for a third. But there's a boy at the 20s, John Cumming, who was in with the Glenville 2002s, came into our under 20s, and I think he's played 21 games now, and he's 19 years old. And for me, playing as a 19-year-old centre half, playing 21 games at that level, and he played on Saturdays, played in most of the big games this season, is really impressive for a boy that age.
Johnstone Burgh boss Jamie McKim is on the show this week. Jamie, we've talked about the club and this season and things. We'll kind of maybe talk a bit more about yourself. Take us back to your involvement in football, where it first started. Playing wise and things like that. What kind of what attracted you to the game?
First attracted me, I think it's probably my dad going to watch Celtic games, going to watch football, and probably doing that. And then obviously you go to school. I think initially I went into play at Glenelg for Thistle when I was a young kid, and from there you fall in love with the game at a young age, don't you? And I think very young I took an interest in coaching, probably when I was about 15 years old, and from there it's been a couple of different. I was in at St Mirren for a couple of years, coaching at Glenville, as I said, and then in Johnstone Burgh. I was passing the playing, but I wasn't very good. I don't really remember, but I don't remember being that talented.
I was going to actually say, did you find yourself, A, more interested in the coaching quite quickly than playing, and B, you felt that it was something you could maybe do more with than the playing side?
Aye, to be fair, I think I wasn't too bad at playing. I'm only joking with that, but I'm totally. I think from a young age, I became a lot more interested in the coaching. I enjoyed putting the training sessions on and making sure the players enjoyed it. I think probably from when I played at the under 21 age group, I played for a couple of different teams at that age, and I'll be honest, I actually signed for one club over the other because of the training sessions, where I wasn't actually getting a game with the team who the training was good. And the team where I was getting a game, I really didn't enjoy the training. And I ended up signing for the one where the training was better and I wasn't getting a game. So at that point, I don't know if it's something that triggered in my mind at that point, that when I was coaching, it was all making sure players enjoyed it, trying to progress players. It's just something that came, I think the training sessions initially came natural to me with the enthusiasm I had.